we have to complete our booking confirmation page, and let's do it now. So in the booking confirmation page, we need to define few properties because we will fetch some data from the previous page, and then we have to receive those data. So at the very first of the page object or page state, let me define few properties. First of all, let me define a bus schedule object. So bus schedule, let me say schedule, and let me have a string departure date, then an integer total seats booked, and also a string seat numbers, and these are the things that we will bring from our seat plan page, because when you come to the booking confirmation page, we are taking the departure date as a string, the schedule object, the selected string notifier, that means the selected seats, and the total seat. So we need to receive these values, and that's why I defined these properties. Now I have to receive the values in the did change dependencies method, and I will assign the received values to these corresponding references. So let me define the did change dependencies method over here, and let me define a boolean so that we can be sure that for several did change dependencies method call, our code will not run multiple times. So let me define a boolean. So bool is first, and it is initially true. And inside the did change dependencies method, first of all, I'm checking if is first. That means if this did change dependencies method is being called for the first time when this state object is created. So if it is the first time, then first of all retrieve the arguments. So final arg list. As you remember that we actually passed a list over here as argument. So model route dot of context dot settings dot arguments and as list, and I have to put the null assumption operator or null check operator over here. And now that we have a list, and we have to be very careful here because we need to retrieve the information or data according to the index. So in the seat plan page, as the first argument we pass the departure date, as the second argument we pass the schedule object, as a third argument we have the selected seats as a string, and the fourth argument is the total number of seats. So we need to retrieve accordingly. So the departure date we get at arg list and index 0. Let me duplicate this line for a couple of times, and the second argument should be a schedule object, and that is at index 1. And now we have the seat numbers, and we get the seat numbers as a string at index 2, and at index 3 we get the total seat booked. And after we retrieve that, our job is to make this is first boolean to false. So is first is going to be false. So did change dependencies method can be called multiple times whenever any dependencies changes in the widget tree for the parent or etc. So we are making sure that these codes will only run once, and at the very first time when the state object is created. Okay, so now that we have retrieved the information, now it's time to build the booking confirmation page. And just for the reference, our booking confirmation page will look something like this. So we will have 3 text field, and we will take a from widget, and we'll have 3 text field to retrieve the information or to get the customer information, the customer name, the mobile number, and email address. Also, we have a section over here where we will show the booking information, and most of the information or all of the information we actually get from the previous steps that user selected. And we'll also have a confirm booking button, and after pressing that button, the reservation will be saved. Okay, so let me go to the state object class level initialization. Before the did change dependencies method, let me define few more variables. Like I need to define a key for the form. So final form key, that will be a global key, and that will hold the form state. And also let me define 3 text controllers or text editing controllers for our 3 text fields. So final, this is for the name, that will be text editing controller. And let me duplicate this 2 more times, and this should be the mobile controller, and this should be the email controller. Okay, and let's go to the build function, or maybe I want to override another method of a state object, that means the init state. So let me define the init state method. It is not important because inside this method I want to put some default value for this controller, so that whenever we come to this page, we see some data already set for these text fields. And this is for the dummy purpose because we are using dummy data, right? So not to avoid time wasting, I will put some default or dummy data like customer name or mobile number or email address to the text fields, and that's why I'm overriding this init state method, and I'm setting few data for each of the controllers over here. So name controller dot text, that would be simply a dummy customer name like Mr. ABC, and also the mobile controller dot text, that would be maybe some dummy mobile number, and also a dummy email address, that would be abc@gmail.com. Okay, now that we have the necessary properties for this class or widget, we have the controllers, we have the default value for the controllers. Now it's time to build our widget and work with the build function, and we'll do that in the next lecture.